Hey everyone, welcome back to my show. Let's go there. It's season 3. Come on. It's a new season and I cannot wait to share with you some amazing guests on the show. Their stories are amazing, inspiring, and life-changing, honestly. And so here at Let's Go There, the stories are real, relevant, and they will just change your life forever. And so today, I want to invite you to meet my new friend, all the way from Florida, Tabatha Claytor, which she has an amazing story overcoming being a survivor of cancer. And so at this moment, I'm going to bring on my new friend, Tabatha.
Hi.
Hey, Tabatha, thank you so much for taking the time to be on my show in the beautiful weather of Florida. So, let's just get into it. Tell me something more about yourself. Like, where do you work? Like, who are you?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm a wife and mother. So I've been married for 23 years to my wonderful husband, Ken. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old son. And let me tell you, they are working me, okay? They are working me. But I love them so much. Nothing else I'd rather be doing. And then also my husband and I started a live church 15 years ago in Gainesville, Florida. And we now have another location in Orlando, Florida. And so we love what we do, just ministering the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we're here loving life. We just recently started a podcast and YouTube channel called Doing Life with Ken and Tabatha.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah, because we just, there's so much ministry in marriage, being a wife, being a husband, being a mother, being a father, the everyday ins and outs. I mean, you can really preach off of this stuff.
You can.
But a lot of us, we don't have trouble when we come to church, sitting in service. We're no one's fighting and arguing at that time. It's when we go home, it's when we go to work, when we go to class. This is where, all of the trouble goes down. And so we just open up life and share our experiences with people. And so far, it's been a blessing.
So I've watched a couple episodes. It's really, really good. Some great nuggets. And, that's what it is. I think people need to realize, even though they're in ministry, we're humans and we do life like everybody else. And just showing people like life with Jesus is fun. It's so much fun.
We always say, if you can't have fun in church, you can't have fun anywhere. You gotta have a good time.
Come on. So when I first saw you on Instagram, I started following you when you broke the news that you got breast cancer a couple of years ago. And so tell me more. How did you find out? And you, like, when I met you, I remember seeing you running, you worked out a lot, and then all of a sudden you got this big news. Like, what's the story behind that?
Wow. Well, it's funny that you said that, you saw me running and things like that, because I was such a healthy person. I don't know. I'm kind of like a health nerd. I just like, if I'm reading a book, I'm usually reading a book about, essential oils or vitamins or, like science and how your body works, just something like that, something, pertaining to your health or maybe cooking. And so I found out I had breast cancer at the end in 2020, the end of 2020, right before the pandemic or during the pandemic, actually. I was actually in a hotel room and I woke up one morning out of my sleep and I had my hand over my chest and I was rubbing my chest and I was unconscious and I just was like, okay, what's going on? What do I feel? And it was like, literally the Lord woke me up in the morning saying, look, this is what's going on. You need to look at this. And so I felt a lump. And that same morning, I called my doctor's office. I was actually only a couple of hours from my home. I made an appointment that day. And from then, she didn't find one lump, but she found 2 lumps.
Wow.
And so then, you schedule all these appointments, ultrasounds and biopsies and all of these things. And at the end of the day, they found 3 lumps and diagnosed me with stage 3 breast cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot to hear at one time.
So how did you process that?
It wasn't easy. I'll say that. I was at first shocked,
Mhm.
because like I said, I was healthy and I thought, well, are you sure? Like, how could this happen to me? Like, I
Mm.
can't tell you, like, I personally haven't eaten from McDonald's. Not that McDonald's is like some big evil thing, but in my personal, like for me, I was like, I'm not eating fast food like that. And this was like, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago that I haven't eaten
Wow.
McDonald's, like a McDonald's French fry, like, and I'm proud of that just because it's just me. It's what I like to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, I was really shocked that I had cancer. And so I handled it at first, just like, first I was kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? And I kind of got mad. I don't know. I'm kind
Mhm.
of like, anger is my go-to emotion. Like,
Real.
I mean, really, I don't know why, but I try to, I'm like the Hulk though. You know how are you an Avengers, like a Marvel fan?
Not really, but like I know the Hulk.
So like the Hulk, he gets angry and he goes crazy and he blows up and he starts tearing everything up. But in the Avengers, it tells the story of the Hulk where he learns how to harness his anger. He
Mm,
learns how to use his anger now for
mm,
the greater good of all mankind, to where he's going after the bad guys and
mhm.
he learns to just kind of be a peaceful kind of person. So that's kind of what I do with anger. you know, I use it. The Bible talks about how Jesus flipped over the tables in the
Yeah,
marketplace. Like, I'm
yeah.
kind of like, okay, I'm not going to sin here. Let me use this for, let me try to use it for a better power.
How do you share it with your kids or your husband? Like, was that hard?
Um, yeah, my husband, he's just amazing. He was kind of same emotions as me, kind of like shocked. Like, what are we going to do here? When I shared it with my children, uh, and still to this day, they're like, we ask them like, hey, how are you after the whole thing? Do you feel good? And they're like, yeah, we're good. Well, whatever. It's like it didn't even affect them. Now, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe when they're in their 20s and able to
Yeah.
articulate their emotions more, maybe they'll say, yeah, I felt like this or whatever. But we didn't really see a big change in them. And I think it's because of how we told them. We've
Mm,
always been people of faith. Like, we
mhm,
are going to speak faith before fear, faith before doubt, faith before anything. And so we sat them down and we said, look, this is what mommy has.
mhm,
And this is what the doctors say. And so I'm going to do surgery. I'm going to do chemotherapy. Mommy's going to lose all her hair. I'm going to lose my eyebrows. I'm going to look kind of weird, but it's okay. It's just the medicine doing what it's supposed to do. And then eventually, come by the end of next year, mommy's going to be done. I'll be healed. My hair is going to grow back and everything's going to be back to normal. And then we shared with them that God is a healer and God is going to be with us through this whole process. And so it is going to be okay. And when I get out, listen, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a great dinner. We're going to go on vacation and do all of these fun things. Like, we just made it something that it's really
mhm,
real. This is real, and it's not
mhm,
going to be fun, but
mhm.
God will bring us out. And
So good.
they just believe mommy and daddy. Like, why would we lie to them?
Yeah, that's good. So what were some of the highs and the lows during this journey?
Oh man, I don't even know if there were any highs, honestly.
Mhm,
There could be highs as in maybe some things that I learned in,
mhm,
like the hardest moments of my life.
mhm,
And one thing that I, I'm still chewing on today. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was okay. Like, I was like, all right, let's do this. And I had a double mastectomy,
mhm,
5 months of chemotherapy and 6 weeks of radiation. And so it was just it was a long period of time that I was working, fighting cancer. And
mhm,
I was okay after the double mastectomy. And it was in the middle of chemotherapy. I don't know whether it was like the chemicals. I just had a really hard time feeling
mhm,
joy, feeling
mhm,
peace, trusting God. And I remember in the middle of it all, I had a panic attack. And this is probably
mhm,
the lowest point of
mhm,
my cancer journey. I was getting chemotherapy, and the ladies we think that it had to do with how fast they gave me all of my medicine.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of, and I was already kind of not sleeping at night, hadn't slept in maybe a few weeks. Every time I fell asleep, I would wake back up like in a panic. And I was going through therapy, trying to work through this. Sleeping medication didn't help. I was really seeking God, like, this isn't good right now. I need help here. But in the middle of that, I had a panic attack. The nurse comes into the chemotherapy ward, and she's like, "Hi, I'm such and such." And she just starts giving me all this medicine and doing all this stuff. And I was thinking, Holy Spirit talks to you,
Yeah.
and sometimes we can just dismiss him, like, but it's just like, no, if we could, oh, I'm sorry, Lord, I didn't listen to you. And I felt like, wow, this is fast. My peace wasn't there with like what she was doing. And then all of a sudden I just felt like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. I got to get up. I got to move. Because when I was doing chemotherapy, it was like, you come down, you sit in a chair. The doctors come in with these masks on and all of this protective equipment, because it's poison, that they're administering to you. And, at the time I had to, because of this specific drug that I was taking, during maybe a 30-minute process of receiving the chemotherapy, I would put my feet into an ice bath, and my fingers on ice, so that I wouldn't develop neuropathy. That's where you get nerve damage at the tips of your fingers and toes and feet, hands. And so I'm sitting there and I've got my feet in ice, my hands are on ice. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I ripped my mask off, and I just had this look of probably shock on my face. And my husband's like, what's going on? And all of a sudden there were like 5 nurses standing around me. And I felt like I was in this fishbowl and everyone was watching me, and I didn't have oxygen to breathe. It was a really, really hard moment. And so after that, I just talked to the Lord. And I realized in talking to God, the problem that I had was, I was like, God, do you love me? And that was just, I'd been in ministry for like 12 years at that point. And God delivered me from stuff. I was depressed for 12 years of my life.
Wow.
I was born and raised in the projects, physically abused, sexually abused, verbally abused, lived in a household with domestic violence. And so abusive relationships, things like that. Like, I'd been through some things in my life, but God delivered me from them all. And here I am 20 years later. I hadn't been depressed. It was 20 years ago I was diagnosed with depression. And so I'm thinking like, Lord, here I am, and you've done so much in my life, but I feel like you don't love me right now.
Wow.
I don't know if I can trust you, Lord, because, if you loved me, I wouldn't have cancer, And my feeling was like, okay, so I trusted you, and God is just saying, like, I felt like the Lord is saying, trust me. And I'm like, but God, how can I trust you when I trusted you that I wouldn't get cancer?
Wow.
So how can I trust you now that you're going to bring me out of it? That's just where I was. And it hurt my feelings. It felt like a betrayal, And so in that moment, the Lord spoke to me, and he says, Tabatha, do you trust your husband? I say, yes. Does he love you? Yes, he does. Absolutely. Okay. And then he said, if he could cure you of cancer, would he? And I was like, absolutely, 100%, he would do it. And he said, how much more can you trust me? Know that I love you, and trust me that I'm going to heal you from cancer. And that sealed it for me. It just sealed it for me, And from there, it was just like, that was the deepest part of my journey. And from there, it wasn't right away. I had to take steps and climb up out of there, like, just by faith and believing God. And, but, eventually I was able to get to higher ground. But that one thing, and just trusting God, it really kept me through. And you know what, like, one other thing that really, really helped me in this time is that I'm the kind of, like, until cancer, honestly, until being diagnosed with cancer, God had just kind of rescued me from situations, kind of like
Mm.
delivered me from situations. So it was just like, okay, when I got cancer, I prayed, God, deliver me. Like you said, if we call your name, that you will be there in the moment
Yeah.
to rescue
Yeah.
us. Like, like when I call the name of Jesus, I expect you to be there. Like when Peter stepped out of the boat and he was walking on water and then he got afraid and yelled up, Jesus. Jesus was
Yeah.
right there to pull him out. I'm like, where are you, Jesus? Here, I like rescue me now. I know
Yeah.
that you're a mighty God. With God, all things are possible. I am not afraid of cancer, and I know that God is bigger than cancer. So I just want to be healed. Let me wake up in the morning and let the lumps be gone. Like, I don't want to have one surgery. I don't want to go through chemotherapy. I don't want to lose my hair. Like, I don't want to do this. But he showed me that just because he doesn't rescue you from it doesn't mean he's not going to deliver you. So he can deliver you from the fire, or he can deliver you through the fire.
Come on.
With
You are
Shadrach, Meshach,
you preaching, girl. You preaching. Come on.
you know it. With Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego,
Yes.
they didn't do anything wrong. They were being thrown in the fire because they were people of God. They said, I'm not going to bow down and worship any God besides the Most High God. And they got thrown in the fire for that. And I'm sure they would rather have just like, okay, just please don't throw me in the fire. I don't want to go through this, but God delivered them not from it, but through it. And to the saving of many lives, right? And so I just said, all right, Lord, I can do that. We sing songs and worship and things like that, Lord, use me, like all of these things. And sometimes I don't think we realize what we're asking God for and what we're giving God permission to do, And I don't think that, God causes sickness or anything like that, but I know that he has to allow it. And I believe that if he allows it, it's for his glory. It's for a greater purpose. And so I was like, God, if this is in my life, I know that I can handle it. And I know that you'll bring me out of it. You didn't deliver me from it, but I know that you'll deliver me through it.
That's so powerful. And I think when we talk about even like mental health, I think when you have a positive view, that helps your physical health as well.
Yes.
And did this affect you and your husband's relationship? Like, how hard is it for him to see his wife go through this? Because obviously you have a purpose partner that comes with you, but they're not there actually dealing with the sickness, but they're watching you going with the highs and lows. Like, and you guys, I'm assuming you guys are close friends and lovers. And like, how was that?
It was, he is my best friend. Like, I mean, he really is my best friend. And like if something funny happens or you just like anything, a joke, whatever, like, I want to tell him like, babe, guess what? Like, and he'll go there with me. Like, he's like my best friend. And so it was really hard for him. And in fact, one of my thoughts quite often through the journey was looking at him and just being like, oh Lord, I wish he didn't have to go through this. Like, I'd look at him and be like, wow, hey, this is an amazing man. Sometimes I just watch him like get on Instagram or something and start talking about what he's going through and our experience and stuff. And I'd be sitting there listening to him and I'd be like, wow, this is a great man. Like, he's really amazing. I'm so, sad that his wife has to go through this and he has to go through this with his wife and not real, like, oh, wait a minute, that's my husband. That's, like, thank you, Lord, that he's mine. Just thank you. I have him to like go through this experience, but he was really a rock. And actually he just had to like, if you ask him, he had to like just turn the knob on faith and break it off. Like, okay, we're not going to go any lower than believing God's best. And he experienced this thing with God with joy. He had like this supernatural kind of joy. And in fact, in our church, this is the year of joy. And he was talking about it. He got this revelation when we were going through the cancer journey. And God just showed him that joy isn't based on your situation, your circumstances, what you feel like, what's going on around you, but joy is based in the Lord and what in his word. And so he was able to walk in this supernatural joy. And literally, I remember standing in the kitchen one day and seeing him come by. He came in and I'm there freezing cold and I've got like 3 layers of clothes on and a hat on my bald head. And he comes in and he's like, hey, baby, how you doing today? And he's just like preaching and like speaking the word and like happy and sunshine. He came and gave me a kiss and hugged me and began to walk out of the kitchen. And I remember watching him go like, okay, is he crazy? Or does he know what I'm going through right now?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and the Lord showed me like, no, he's right there with you. He just knows something. And if you can just follow him, you know, you're going to be okay. And so I made the decision right there in the kitchen, like, okay, this man, he's not crazy. I think he's filled with faith. And I don't know, but I'm just going to follow his lead. And I just was like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and be sad either. Okay.
That's so good.
You know, so I think it was an opportunity for him to really find God himself.
Yeah.
You know, when things like that happen, it kind of rocks the foundation of your belief. But, you know, okay, do I believe that God is a healer? Do I believe that God loves me? Do I believe that he's going to bring me out of all this and restore me double? Do I believe this? And I think we both had to go through that personal journey.
Man, and it's so true. And I think being faith leaders can also be difficult, almost feeling like you're a liar, imposter. Like, okay, we preach this every week, but now we're walking out in our everyday life. Do we believe the very thing that we tell our people? And we have the opportunity to walk that out in this season, right? And so I can only imagine kind of feeling the weight of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that was one of the things I talked to God about. And I think that's so important too, like just for anyone going through anything. You don't have to go through cancer, but like if you're just, you know, like maybe you're in college and you're just failing your class right now, talk to God about it. You know what I mean? He's like, he knows everything. He wants to know every detail. If he knows every number, every hair on our head, I'm pretty sure he wants to be involved with like the details of our lives, you know? And so I asked God, like, okay, well, wait a minute, because I'm a pastor. Like I'm supposed to be going to the hospital and laying hands on the sick and seeing them recover. How could I have cancer? Like, why do like people need to pray for me right now? Like, what is going on? And I was just very upfront with my emotions and what I was feeling. It was so important not to bottle it up and cover it up, but to let it out. So there were certain times where I would just say, you know, whether I was ministering to like a group of people or to one person or talking to my husband or even to the Lord, I'd just be like, hey, I kind of feel some way about this, but you know what? I'm just going to trust God. I'm going to believe God. And, you know, we're just going to keep on. What other option do I have?
Right.
What other option do I have?
How was like losing your hair? Because, you know, hair is a big thing for women. Like, what was that journey like? Tell me.
Listen, let me tell you, okay? Because, you know, we preach, and I've preached for years. I have a women's ministry called Pio Women. It's short for Pioneer. So I preach a lot on what we look like on the outside and beauty. You know, we lose weight, we gain weight. I mean, we have kids, our bodies change, we have menopause. Like, I mean, there's so many changes that we go through as women. And so it's always like, girl, you just be the best you that you can be. It's not about all of this other stuff, right? Until you lose all of your hair.
Girl.
And it really, honestly, I mean, it felt some kind of way. When I first, before surgery or anything, I knew I was about to lose my breasts. I knew I was about to lose all of my hair. And I just sat in the bed one night with my husband in a real intimate moment. And I think it might have been, I don't know, just one of the few times in the beginning that I actually just cried, like, okay. Because I kind of cry. I don't really cry if I'm upset. I cry if I get mad. Like, if you make me mad enough, I'm just going to cry. Anger again, I'm telling you. But so I was sitting in bed with my husband and we were just talking about all the things that were coming up for me. And we talked about me losing my hair and I just began to cry. And I said, you know, I'm sorry. It sounds so superficial. Like I should be thankful that I have my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to lose my hair, but I'll have my life. Yes, I'm going to lose my breasts, but but I'm going to have my life.
Yeah.
But it's still very real. It's still very much like, but this was a part of me. And, as a woman, you know, uh, even with your breasts, you grow up and, you get your trainee bra,
Yeah.
you're like, this is who you are. And then you
Yeah.
move into motherhood. Look, I fed 3 babies with these, like, this is like part of me. And
Yeah.
even with our hair, so my hair, I'm mixed. I'm half black, half white. And so I have this, everyone's usually like, hey, your hair, oh my gosh. I have it straightened right now, but usually it's curly. And, like I just always had this long, beautiful, curly hair. And it just was kind of became like a part of my identity, not in like a
Yeah.
bad way, but like, this is
Yeah.
who I am, flip, this is my hair. And I felt good about it. But when I lost my hair, I remember looking in the mirror and it's just like, okay, who is that? I don't recognize the person looking in the mirror. And even today, so like my hair is short and I thank God it's growing back healthy and all of that. But I still feel like I'm still waiting in some regards for it to grow longer so I could feel
Mm.
like me again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's just very real. But I balance it out like, okay, that's great. Maybe I just like long hair. And I know that God is going to restore me, and
Mm.
that's part of, what I'm believing God for. And I'm going to be so happy when I have the long hair or whatever.
Mm.
But the other part is I'm going to enjoy who I am right now.
Mm.
So even when I had a bald head, I just be walking around with a bald head. Hey, this is who I am. Sometimes I didn't feel like having a bald head, so I would put on a wig. And the reason why I'd like to put on a wig was because, I mean, you could just like wigs and that's what you like to do. You do you, right? But for me, I'm more of a naturalist and I'm like, I have a bald head. That's just what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
I would put a wig on sometimes because I didn't like people looking at me and feeling sorry for me. It was
Mm.
kind of like this label. It just felt like it
Mhm.
was suffocating me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, nah, I'm going to put this wig on and you're just going to see me as another person. And you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
God bless people, but I'm like, this is not who I am. Don't mistake me for this. This is just something that I'm going through right now, but this is not
Mhm.
the end of my story.
Man.
And so I don't know. I know I went all around
No, it's
in
good.
circles with that.
So you're on the other side of being a cancer survivor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What have you learned? Like, what are you learning in this season of
Mm-hmm.
now that you can look back at that season? What's some things that you're now like, wow, I'm stronger because I went through that, or man, I can't believe, I don't know if you lost friends or community or you built a stronger community. Like, what is life now after that journey, that season, I'd say?
Yeah, I think number one, I definitely can understand and have a greater compassion for people who are going through any type of sickness, disease, mental illness, like any type of tragedy, let's say that in their lives. I was really oblivious to the whole cancer world and being
Mhm.
in hospitals. And, now I have definitely went to hospitals before and prayed for people. I've went to nursing homes and prayed for people who were sick, but I'd never like experienced it on my own. And I think it gave me a deeper understanding just for what people are going through. And so now when I pray for people, oh,
Mm.
thank you, Jesus. Like I know how to pray for people.
Mm.
Sometimes people come up, we have prayer every Sunday in our church. People come up and they ask, oh, I just need to be healed, or they ask for things, but they don't really know how to articulate what it is
Yeah.
that they really need. And
Mhm.
I just feel like it gave me a greater ability to minister and be able to pray for people who are being challenged with sickness. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know. And I think looking back now, I would say I have a greater appreciation for life in general.
Mhm.
I remember, being in the kitchen and my kids, they were still going about life. They had homework, they had to eat, laundry had to be done, like all of these things. They had basketball practice and soccer practice and track practice, like all of these things. And I remember not being able to do those things
Mm.
and cherishing and looking forward to the moment that I could be able to just be a tired soccer mom again, like, because I did this and that and the other, and now I have to go to a parent teacher conference, and now I have to go home and make dinner, but I still got to go to work and I got to pray. Like, I was just like, okay, nothing's that serious. Like, I never want to complain again in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, on this side of it, I'm like, girl, stop complaining. Just, it's really not that hard. Let's cherish the moments. You come down and the kitchen's dirty. That's because you have a family who's using this beautiful home that God's blessed you with. They got food in their stomachs. They came down here, they got them some food, and they tore it up. Praise the Lord. You know what I mean? This gives me a different perspective.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And so who would you say inspires you?
That's a great question. Because, when I first hear that question, I think about, like, you start thinking about, like, all of the, like, famous people, famous writers, or people in history, or, like, the leading ministers and preachers in the body of Christ. But I think the people who inspire me most, and I made a point to do this because we live in this social media, kind of generation, like, we're here now. It's social media, and you can see everyone everywhere. But I decided to begin to be inspired by and impressed by and encouraged by the people that are closest to me, the people around me, like my husband, like my children, like the people that I work with, who I see them come here early in the morning and stay late at night. The people who I know that you just got in your wallet and gave $100 to that mom that you just prayed for so that she can pay her bills. The people that I see you praying for people behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like my mother-in-law, who is currently fighting cancer. And I see just her courage and her strength, and how she, like, when I was going through chemotherapy, I did not look like she does. Okay. She is, like, looking cute. She's got her jewelry, and she's just a fireball and so filled with joy. These are the people that inspire me the most, because I know them personally. I know what they do when they come home at night. You know what I mean? Like, I know them. And I was standing in the grocery store not too long ago, and you know how they have all the magazines in the grocery store?
Yeah.
And it was like one of the magazines that said, world's most beautiful woman, and I'm like, I'm looking at the woman, and of course she was beautiful, but I began to think, like, who says that? Says who? Who's voting on this?
Yeah.
She's beautiful on the outside, but what about the inside? And then going back to losing your hair and our body image and the stuff, and who we're inspired by and what we like, okay, no, you know who the most beautiful woman in the world is? It's like my daughters. I have a 17-year-old daughter who is so beautiful on the inside and out. And my 13-year-old daughter, like, they look similar but different. These are the most beautiful women in the world, like they talk about the sexiest man in the world. They have not met Ken Claytor. Okay. You might say the same about your husband.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, no, the most inspirational people in my life are the ones who I surround myself with daily. We're doing life together. And hopefully I can inspire them too, right?
I love it. I love it, because I think so much we're always looking outwards to a fake community that we don't really know.
Yes.
We just see their pictures, their stories, but we don't really know them, or even on magazines or even on TV. But what about the people in our everyday life that we get to see the bad, the good, and the ugly, but they're still amazing people and beautiful, and they can share so much of their experiences with us. We can do life together. And I think we need to do more of that, especially coming out of this crazy season. We came out of pandemic. We were in Toronto, we were locked down like crazy, but really enjoying and learning at the feet of people that actually know you, that you don't have to prove yourself to.
Come on.
You can be 100% authentically who God created yourself to be. And I think a lot of us need to learn that, because I think we get so caught up looking at people, wanting to be friends with people, and overlook the people in your everyday life that are doing life with you, that care for you, that are praying for you, that are feeding you, they're laughing with you. But we want to look outside of that, because we think life is better over there. But really, the joy, the peace that you can have, those trusted people in your life, you can't find that anywhere.
Come on.
You really can't. And so my last question for you, what would you tell your 16 or 18-year-old self? Like, if you go back and like tell that young woman?
Okay. So that's a loaded question because I
Yeah.
didn't get saved until I was 22 years old.
Mm.
So the first thing I'm going to answer it to, the first thing in that respect would be, girl, you need Jesus. No one told, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't know about God. No one told me, like, I didn't know about God. I didn't know about Jesus. I didn't know that I was loved. I didn't know that I was beautiful. I didn't know any of those things. So first, the gospel, she needs the gospel. But let's put the gospel aside. Let's say just in general, I think I would let her know that, girl, you're all right. Like, you are going to be okay. Um, don't try to be anyone else. Um, just be you and be the best you that you can be. And that you're going to be okay. Like, you're going to figure this out. I think in my younger years, because I can even look back into my 20s and then 30s, and sometimes you think, like, okay, do I know what I'm even doing here? Like, who gave me the authority to be an adult? You know what I mean? Like, should I be an adult right now? Because maybe somebody just needs to, like, take me back to, being young. And then you hit, like, you become, like, you graduate college and get your first job. And it's like, do I belong here right now? Because I don't think I know anything. And it's like, I remember having a baby for the first time. And I'm looking at, like, okay, who authorized me to be a parent? I shouldn't be a parent right now. It's like getting ordained into ministry. Like, okay, should I be doing this right now? Because it's just like, girl, yes, you should. You're right where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. God orchestrated this for you. And so just stay on the plan that God has for you. Don't ever back down. I love to say that don't ever be fearful. When you see fear, step to it. Don't run through it. Don't run from it, right? You got to step to it. Because when you do it, it's just like David and Goliath. He didn't run from everyone else was fearful of the giant. Everyone else. But David stepped to it. And when he stepped to it, he didn't come in his own power and strength, but he came in the name of God, in the name of the Most High God. And so anything we do in life, I would just say to that, I guess, to that 16-year-old, 18-year-old self, you're going to be okay. Don't run from fear, but step to fear. When you do, God is going to be with you, and you'll be able to overcome every mountain, every giant that comes your way, and you'll be able to just be where God wants you to be.
Tabatha, you're such a walking miracle of God's faithfulness and testimony. Just to hear that, being clinically depressed for 12 years.
Yes, ma'am. God is good.
In the ghetto, the project that God pulled you out of that. Come on. Now coming through breast cancer, like, God clearly has a plan for your life. Your steps are ordered. I'm excited to continue to watch your journey that God moves in you, through your church, through your personal ministry, through your marriage ministry. And it's an honor to have you on my show today. And thank you for sharing all the inspiring stories. And I just know, like, as you continue to unravel the gold you've learned on your journey, it's going to really help a lot of women. So
Amen.
Thank you so much. And we will see you in a couple minutes backstage. So thank you again for being on my show. Appreciate it. Love you too. Thank you. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Wasn't that experience phenomenal? And I just want to encourage anyone that's going through a hard time, connect yourself with someone that has an inspiring story that you can believe that God can pull you out of any situation. And so until next week, I cannot wait to share my next guest with another amazing God story. So have a great week, and we will see you soon.